ready for the Bob Graham Experience.
Hey, you're going to want to stick around because my interview with Peter Cimoroni of Palladium, where they bring best practices to businesses big and small, is something. He talks about his pathway to success. He talks about avocado bread and his journey to make that a thing that hopefully we'll see in grocery stores real soon. And other ideas about entrepreneurship, successful business, and even what makes a good idea. So you're going to want to stay tuned for this episode of the Bob Graham Experience. Here comes Peter right now. So Peter, thank you so much for being here. I'm excited to get into your story about Palladium and just, first of all, where did that name come from? That is quite the word.
Palladium is the second most precious metal on the planet, only to rhodium. And I like being second so I can try harder.
Oh, this is going to be a lot of fun. I like it. There was a guy in Baltimore that sold computer equipment that he had buttons on his for his employees that said, "We're number 2." And then everyone would ask him, "Who's number 1?" He'd say, "You are my customer." Every time.
Right on.
So right in the same vein.
We did a direct mail piece. God, this has got to be 10 years ago. We're still doing direct mail to some degree. Actually, direct mail, we still do a lot of actually handwritten notes, and we stamp them and we hand address them and all that nice things. But we sent out the king, jack, queen, and king of a suit. And we at the bottom we said, if you want the ace, give us a call.
How many people watching or listening to this do you think are going to take that and go do it?
They should. God bless them. Go.
Now you said, Peter, you're still doing direct mail. Are you still using direct mail much? And are you getting the results? Because I keep hearing both sides of that argument.
I am using the handwritten note. So no, we're not doing massive direct mail, Bob.
When you say handwritten, do you mean someone's literally writing a note out by hand, or are you using software that makes it look like it was handwritten?
No, I write at least 20 to 25 handwritten notes a week. Whether it's a thank
Where do you get your list of people to write them to?
It's not. There's no list. So, like, let's say I see a post by you, Bob, that I really thought was poignant, right? I will find out your address, your corporate address, and I will send you a handwritten note saying, keep bringing it. Bring it to life. Love it.
Okay. Are you a thank you note guy as well?
Absolutely. 100%.
Oh, wow. Okay. That's a lost start. I'm amazed how many times when I send someone a thank you note, they're like, I can't believe you took the time to do that.
Well, I think
it's one of the best gifts in business that you can give someone.
Right.
Really.
Well, you talk about cutting through the noise, because who gets mail anymore?
Right. And especially if it's a little, like I have little thank you notes that are like, smaller than a postcard. So it stands out as something that, what the heck's this?
I get you. I send green envelopes.
There you go. Your wealth of energy and wisdom here. So Peter, walk us through how you got to the fact that you can send out green envelopes. You started your business to here. Walk us through.
Well, in 1980, Bob, I was a matriculating senior at John Carroll University.
Okay.
The worst economy since the Great Depression. Thank you, Jimmy Carter. So doesn't matter your politics, whatever. The facts were the facts. It was horrifying. There was no jobs, particularly for a history major. Great. And so I went back to college, got my history master's. So I doubled down on the history.
Because it was working so well, you thought you'd do more.
Of course. Yeah. Went to law school. And while I loved law school, I didn't like the people I was surrounded by. So I never took the bar. So I just went into the business world, and I answered an ad selling radio time for the corporation was the Robinson Broadcasting Network. It was a guy by the name of Larry Robinson, brilliant Harvard professor. All the time he was in academia, and his dad was very ill, owned a jewelry store called J.B. Robinson. He came back, took that over, and grew it to a national chain. and sold it to W.R. Grace for lots of money. And he always wanted to own radio stations, and that's what he did. So, and then built that radio station network pretty well and sold it to J-Corps and made more money. The guy just, he was golden touch. So I learned from the master of marketing, and I really fell in love with marketing. And so opened up my first agency in 1987, Bob, because I had a 9/11 before a 9/11. 9/11, 1986, the TV station I was the local sales manager on was sold to Home Shopping.
Oh.
And everybody was fired that day, including the GSM.
And there were no inklings that this was coming.
No.
And this was when the Home Shopping Network wasn't really prominent.
No,
right?
It was Nation. It was.
Yeah.
So we were like, oh, thank you. And I'm okay. So I'm 29 years old, making six figures in 1986.
Let me just tell you, that's a lot of money.
A lot of money.
Exactly. In today's dollars, that's probably 2.5, 3 times that.
Easily. So
might be 7 figures.
Well, and with no children yet, so we were having a blast to zero overnight with not even healthcare. So whatever. So I said, well, okay. So they were nice enough to allow us to keep the office for like 2 months. So I had a place to come, because back then nobody had home offices. And so I came there and I started my first agency, and my first client, I'll never forget the check I got. I'm like, I kissed the guy. I kissed him on the cheek. I go, thank you. Thank you. Thank you. And before you knew it, we grew to a $2 million agency. And then we were high flying. And then I sold it to Group 243, which was part of the Domino's company.
What led you to sell it?
What had happened was we had grown so fast that they were throwing stupid multiples at us. I said,
so
okay.
It's just too much money to give up.
Yeah, it's like the Godfather.
How old were you when you made that sale?
I was 30. I was 34.
Okay. So then you had to figure out what to do next in your life, right?
Right. And so I went,
and I'm sure there was a non-compete, right?
No. It was an earnout. It was a buyout. So I had to stay there for, I think, 1.5 years or 2 years or whatever.
Okay.
So I think they bought me out after 1.5 years. The buyout, the buyout, right? The buyout.
So then what was the next stop on the train?
So the next stop was with a guy that was having a lot of issues with his position with the government, and he brought me in to do some type of crisis management,
Okay.
And so we did such a good job there. Then he offered me a job as the EVP of Sales and Marketing for his company, and I took it.
Okay.
And for the next 4 years, I grew him from the 11th largest agency, not in marketing. I won't say what it was. But it was a professional service organization. Okay. It was called an agency. And we grew that from the 11th largest agency in the city to the 4th largest in the state in 4 years.
Okay. Wow.
And during that time, my brother-in-law and my sister had come up with an idea called Cough Pops, cough drop on a stick. And I loved the idea. My brother-in-law was a doctor.
Okay.
We lost him in 2018. Loved the man. Delivered 7,000 babies in his career.
Oh, wow.
Had the highest clearance. Did the hysterectomy on Marilyn Quayle. Our second lady back in the
Dan Quayle's wife.
Yep, Dan Quayle's wife. And so this was a very accomplished man, and a dear, like a brother to me. And we took that international, from kitchen table ideation to international distribution, all 50 states, Canada, Mexico, Western Europe. We had it in every major retailer. My mug was on every major publication you could imagine.
Wow.
It was heady times. And I'd raised, a 7 figures to get this done in Cleveland, Ohio in the late 90s in a CPG product. I mean, come on. It was like a minor miracle. Actually, there was only 2 other products in the entire decade of the 90s that came out of Northeast Ohio that were CPG. One, Purell, Gojo.
Okay.
The other,
Heard of that.
Purell. And the other, the Spin toothbrush.
Okay.
Not bad company. Not bad company.
No, not at all.
Yeah.
So you did that for a couple
We
years?
did that for 8 years. We sold that in 06.
Okay.
And during that time,
was this one of those they were throwing enough money that it made sense, or were you done with it?
yeah, no. We hit a triple. We hit a triple.
Okay.
We didn't hit the grand slam. We hit a triple. But in the meantime, I had opened up. We had started an in-house agency to do all the marketing. Right. We wanted to keep it tight. We were smart, efficiency-wise. And so what we did with that is we took that same methodology and we brought it to the market. And so we created some of the most iconic campaigns in all of Ohio's history. We did one of the most successful auto dealership campaigns ever. We took a Lexus dealership in Northeast Ohio to the point where it is still today the single most money spent on one dealership in 2004. And our ad budget, when we took over, was $660,000. We reduced it to $440,000, and we increased their sales 4 years straight. They sold for $85 million.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
Then basically you have the golden touch. Everything you touch just goes well.
Well, I don't know about that, but at the end of the day, we knew that our competition was asleep at the switch. Everybody was still buying radio on a monthly basis. They were buying newspaper. They were just wasting money. An attractive young lady would walk into a car dealership and they would sell them. It was just real cowboy stuff, right? Just not. But I remember when we created the video, or the centerpiece of it was a really well produced film commercial.
Okay. Wow. That would be unusual even now, right?
Right. And he spent the money. The guy spent the money, right?
Why did you use film?
Because it looked fantastic. It so stood out, and we knew that it would attract the kind of a buyer that he wanted.
The Lexus person who's looking for something a little more classic.
High quality, right? And he looked great. The owner looked fantastic. He looked like he had a beautiful office. He was dressed in a $1,000 suit. He looked beautiful. He looked great. And the cars matched it, right? And then we used Rick Manning, who was the TV voice of the Cleveland Indians. He was a former All-Star. And he was perfect. He was in his late 40s. He was a good-looking dude. Wasn't
Rick Manning the guy who played center field and had to put out the fire and the flag one day?
Yep.
Okay, there you go.
You know who he is. Yeah, he was an all-star center fielder for the Tribe, and then he also went to the Brewers, played for the Brewers. He ended up being a good friend. Great guy, really good voice. But anyhow, so we did that, and I remember playing the video to his team, his staff, and they broke into tears. They were so proud.
Wow.
So we knew we had it. And it did great. It did great. And so we took that same thing. We did another commercial for a chicken and waffles restaurant chain that won an Addy, which was a local, award. Yep. We got a standing ovation for that. I mean, so we knew that we thought differently. Okay.
Okay.
One of the things that we were big on was endorsement-based advertising and radio.
Okay.
So we took this kind of frumpy, Italian-y kind of street guy. His name was Mike Trevisano. Terrific broadcasters in the broadcaster, I think, is Hall of Fame. We recently lost him as well. But he was on WTAM, which is the 1100 AM, which is the flamethrower. It was the biggest, it had half of Canada.
I could get it in Baltimore.
You know what I'm talking about.
That's how big it was.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Back when AM was big.
Big. And Triv was
to you young people, this was the radio where you had to turn the dial and listen to what they put in front of you. You couldn't choose.
You couldn't choose. You couldn't wait. You couldn't, there was no, unless you wanted to tape it somehow, some way on a tape recorder. You know what I mean?
Right.
So, yeah, there was none of that. So, but he commanded drive time. And we knew that he had this incredible appeal to people when he endorsed a product. So we got him to endorse, and this guy dressed, I mean, he was overweight, he was just like a curmudgeon,
Yeah.
You would never think of him as sartorially splendid, to say the least. So we put him together with the high-end men's store chain in Northeast Ohio and Toledo. And he knocked it out of the park. Because he fell in love with Tommy Bahama shirts.
Okay.
One of their lines. And so we took this juxtaposition that was incongruous and we put it together, and it was fire, as the youth like to say. So
I like that. So,
yeah. So that was how we matriculated.
And how did you get to, so where are you now with Palladium, and what are you doing here that builds on all that? Because I would think you didn't deviate too far.
Well, there's some bridge here. So that was like in the late, like 2006, 2007, and then the crash got. Okay. Mm-hmm. And so I hunkered down, and I didn't shutter the business, but we just kind of let it, keep going. And we didn't really make any growth at all. And we didn't really have to suck back, but we were stagnant. And so in that process, I wrote a book, and then I wrote a second book. And then in 2010, things started to trickle up, right? A little bit. Mm-hmm. And through that time, I had counseled a lot of guys that used to wrestle for me, because I coached high school and college wrestling since 1978. I was a head coach in my high school, my alma mater. I was a head coach.
Award-winning coach, right?
Thank you. Yeah, thank you.
That would be the clippings I was reading earlier today.
Thank you. Yeah. So, and matter of fact, I just retired in March or April of 23. But in that, one of my athletes, I was counseling him through the crash. He was, it was very tenuous times. And he came to me and he said, "Coach, I had this idea." This was in 2009. He said, "Why don't we create, there's this new thing called LinkedIn." He says, "Why don't we create a group where wrestlers can come and do business together?" I said, "I love the idea. So we reached out to a couple of different former athletes of mine that I coached or coached against that were doing well in different disciplines. We brought them together. We created Wrestlers in Business Network. And today it's 60,000 members strong.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
So that got me
thinking. And do they transact business within that group?
Business. It's a political powerhouse. It's a civic powerhouse. It's a coaching powerhouse. So.
And it's people from all over the country?
Oh, yeah. I mean, there's chapters everywhere. But I was the founding member with about 3 or 4 other guys, maybe 4 other guys. And so, matter of fact, Billy Baldwin did our first video, one of the Baldwin brothers. And we had Lee Kemp, which is arguably one of the top 3 wrestlers ever to grace the United States of America. Terrific human being as well. Anyhow, so we grew that. And so it got me thinking, and I didn't like how marketing and advertising was going. It was becoming more digital, more analytical. We were losing a lot of the fun. Because, I remember I started the business at the end of the Mad Men era. I remember.
I was just going to say, I was picturing you with the, cancel all my calls for the afternoon, the 3 martini lunch, the sofa, the late night sessions where you come up with an idea. Yeah.
So
I wish I'd lived that.
It wasn't quite Don Draper, but, and I was never a drinker and I never done a drug in my life. That's not my thing.
Okay.
But I would have a drink periodically. And that afternoon, 3:00, we would maybe sip on a little bourbon and have a cigar and come up with these fantastic commercials, right? well, that was going away. And you see commercials today, right, Bob? They're weird. They're just weird. There's nothing.
I must say at least 3 times a week, what focus group could you find that greenlights this? Because every ad goes through a focus group.
Right.
And I marvel at it.
I mean, they've got to be, going after that mystic spinach. It must be smoking the mystic spinach or the
Something
hippie
like
lettuce.
that.
You know what I'm saying? So anyhow, but they need to cut through the noise, right? That's, I guess, why they're doing it. So, but and then you see all the social media and these influencers, and you're like, how are these knuckleheads making money? But anyhow, they are, and they're brilliant, far brilliant, more brilliant than me, obviously, with what they're doing. But at the end of the day, I like being me. I don't want to be a whack job, when it comes to making money. So we love wonderful content. We love rich content. We love evolved content, enlightened content. So that, so I started seeing that. And so I said to myself, well, do I want to do that? Do I want to be that weirdo? And I said to myself, no. What I want to be is that teacher, that coach, that professor, whatever nomenclature you want to use. So I started to bring best practices into my business, and I started to evolve the company in away from being a marketing company to being a best practices company, a business consultancy, full service consultancy. And that's what we are today.
Okay.
So we've evolved over the past, 12 to 14 years. So what we do is we really are a full service consultancy to our client base. And we really started that full go in 2017 when we were approached by a company called Corpay. Actually, it was Comdat at the time. They had this AP solution that was brilliant. And so when I saw what that could do to the marketplace, I said, that's where I need to live, because every business lifeblood is EBITDA. So if you can affect EBITDA, you've now hit a home run.
Now, for those who don't know all the nuances, explain to them that and why that's so important.
Interest, taxes, depreciation, and blah, blah, blah. So that's really the value.
And that's really what they base your purchase of your company on.
That's the value. Right? That's the value. That's your valuation. And that's where you get the multiple, right? So if you drop another $700,000 to EBITDA, you get an 8 multiple, you just made 5.6 million.
Right.
Or 4.2 million, whatever my math is, 4.2 million.
Right.
So at the end of the day, right, that is poignant. That is compelling. And so we wanted to be compelling to our client base. And in the process, we want to be part of that. And where this came from was in 2002, I believe, or 2003. I went to this clothier that I was telling you about with Trevisano, and I said, I'm going to absolutely flatten your marketing expense. Okay. So as long as you're with me, this is the number you'll ever spend on marketing. But what I want 2% of all you get above and beyond your projections.
Okay. So
now projections are, lofty to some degree, right?
Yeah.
Well, we took that menswear company from 2 million in sales in 1999 to when I retired the account because I bought into another one in 2007, $18 million. 18 million on the same ad budget. So we took their line item from 7% to 0.6.
Okay.
With a 9 times growth. So what I did was...
So your 2% looked pretty nice in that.
We were happy. We were very happy. And they weren't. They were happy, but they weren't happy, right?
Right.
It's typical.
Funny how people are that way. Weird. It's like, hey, you get 98% of it. Why are you quibbling over the 2?
Which you never would have had if you hadn't met us.
Right. I marvel at that all the time. He's like, wait a second. Well, I want all of it. But if you had all of it, you wouldn't have any of it.
Exactly.
I'm with you.
Yeah, right. And so I love writing those checks because I'm making more. But at the end of the day, so that's where we live. So that's the modality we go to market. So while we're paid a retainer, the vast bulk of our compensation as a best practices company is based on performance. So if you're paying Palladium $100 in 2025, 90 of those dollars are for performance.
Okay.
10 of those dollars are based on retainer that just, hard costs. And it's also skin of the game. If somebody doesn't want to pay that modest retainer, and modest is a relative term, right? But we think it's a very smart engagement. It's because they're skin in the game. So when I call you, I want you to return my call.
Has it failed for you at times?
No, because what it does is it carves out any problems. Because if somebody doesn't want to do that, okay, my red flag, it's not a pink flag. My red flag.
So they weed out themselves.
Exactly. Bingo. Because I don't want to deal with
Would you recommend most businesses move to a performance-based model if they're doing services?
I think of the hybrid that I have, the hybrid model.
Okay.
Where you have some retainer, some skin in the game, but the vast majority of it is based on performance. You're going to make more money. You're going to make more money.
Assuming you know what you're doing.
Well, yeah. I mean, if you suck, you're not going to make any money anyway.
Right.
Yeah. So,
I do some business coaching and I do some book coaching, ghostwriting, and most of the books I write are to help people with their business, to grow their business.
Sure.
More leads, referrals, and thought leadership. It would be an interesting model for me to explore.
Absolutely. Please be my guest. I mean, I've already given.
I might pick your brain one day about how that gets structured. But that's a relatively new approach to business, right? I mean, that's not something you see a lot of.
No, but I've been doing it since the early 90s. So, really, that's how I got engaged with that agency. I said, I want you to pay me a salary, but I want most of my compensation on performance. And we knocked it out of the park. So good for me, right? Because I performed.
Okay. I want to ask you a question. You've done a lot of creative work, it sounds like. How do you know when an idea is a good idea?
So, Warren Buffett buys product that he buys. Mm-hmm. So he invests, right? But he also knows the human mind and heart and spirit. So it's hard to argue with a guy who's probably worth 50 billion, right?
Right.
And he's pretty common sense dude, So, like when I did cough pops, I realized that it solved a problem that nobody knew existed, but they always knew it existed. It's so weird, right? It's like, I don't want my child to choke, but I don't want to give them a pharmaceutical. I'd rather give them a nutraceutical. Okay, because this is not about, like scarlet fever. This is a cold.
A cold, right.
A cold. And this is a great delivery system with a product that tastes good. That's good for you. Well, so, and then sometimes you got to take a leap of faith too. You just got to trust your gut and you trust, your who you are and your intellect, but also your heart. So like when I put Trevisano together with the menswear company, I just knew it was going to work. I just knew it. And it was off the charts successful.
Do you think it's easier to market a existing problem that's in the forefront of people's minds, or like your cough pops and a problem that they had that they didn't really know they had?
Well, look at some of the things that are happening today in CPG. Let's talk about CPG. So how many waters are out there now? How many drinks are out there? How many energy drinks? It's ridiculous, right? But Red Bull, wow, that guy's worth, $5 to $10 billion. And it's not that great of a taste. I mean, some people love it. It tastes like a liquid.
There goes another possible sponsor of my program. Oh, well.
I understand. But there you go, Bob. God bless. Anyhow, so, but and then how many, what else? How many snack companies now are there? Healthy snack companies are there? I'm not getting into either one of those. Okay. But I just created a new type of bread.
Bread?
Bread. Based on my recipes using the avocado.
Avocado bread. Interesting. Huh.
Okay. So
Will we be seeing that soon across the country?
You're darn right you are. You're darn right.
Does it have a brand name yet?
Oh, yeah, it does. But when we go out, we'll let you know.
Don't want to launch it too soon. All right, I thought I might be getting exclusive here.
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly.
So if you would, walk through that process. Avocado bread is not something I ever thought about. And now that it's in my head, I've got to think about it. Walk me through the process of this idea comes to your attention or you think it up and you go through, give me the steps to get to, hey, this is going to blow up across the country.
So here's where it's actually that product you're talking is actually the back door of my initial product. So my initial product is a game-changing guacamole.
Okay.
And what happened was about 5 years ago, I would go on the Sunday fun days with my now wife. She was my fiance at the time, girlfriend, fiance. And we would go to this Cuban joint. And they had a guacamole sampler. Okay, gourmet guacamole, right?
Yeah.
And I tasted it. And I was never really a big guac guy. I don't know, it was just never part of my culture. And I said, I like this. And then I went home that night. And I woke up the next morning. I said, I can do better than that guacamole. I have no idea why. Zero.
Okay.
And I created a world-class guacamole. And it's not me saying it. It's our focus group, and it's people like Michael Simon saying it, and Brandon Krastowski saying it, And so we went on this mission. Now, this is, while this happened to me, is I would take it to parties, and it would be the first thing to go. And then I would see people like taking the bowl and eat it with a spoon. So I said, I got some here. And then I started to create flavors, And then I took the cilantro out of it and made an all-day spread, because about 10% of the population, not 10, but about 3 to 5% of the population have in their DNA aversion to the taste of cilantro. It tastes like soap.
Right. Yep.
So I made this all-day spread. So I took it to a manufacturer in Mexico, made it for them in their kitchen, and they said, this is better than ours.
Okay.
That's a moment in time. So that's it. I said, then I created this company based on guacamole. And to get it though into the marketplace is Herculean. So there's a lot of capital that needs to be raised for that, because we have to make it in Mexico.
And a lot of meetings, right?
Yeah, but more importantly, capital. So Bob, to that point, I said, how do I get into the marketplace with a partner, for less capital, less friction? And what happened was, about 6 months ago, I was one of the guys on LinkedIn reached out to me, said, I love what you're doing. I want to meet you. I want you to meet my guy. And this guy's name is Andrus Lagston. And Andrus, if you look him up, created an entire category called baking steel. And what baking steel is, it's a 15-pound plate that goes in your oven that heats to 500 degrees, that makes the best pizza crust on the planet, best breads, you name it. So I went up to him, in Grand Rapids, Michigan, and we shot a video called Sauce Talk, which is, one of his, he's a very successful guy. He's got like 300,000 followers on Instagram and numerous followers on YouTube. And so we created this video, and I made my avocado spread on camera. He made his naked bake. It's called a naked bake, which is his pizza crust. And we put it on there and we tasted it, and it was historically good. It was just awesome. I mean, you see him eating this, you're like, oh my God, right? Anyhow, so I kept thinking about this. How can we put that together? Well, I never made bread in my life. So a month and a half ago, I said, I'm going to make avocado and I'm going to make guacamole bread. And I did. And I took it to one of the top manufacturers of bread in the Midwest. And we've known these people forever. we go back to the old neighborhood, the old Italian neighborhood. So my grandfather was good friends with his grandfather, blah, blah, blah. And I said, what do you think of this? He goes, I can't stop eating this. He says, and I said, well, I want you to be my partner. And right now, that's what we're negotiating right now, so that they will manufacture the bread, and then we together will go and sell it into their sales channel, because they're in all the retailers and restaurants and all that, and we'll sell that. And that's how we're going to get into retail, so the back door, side door, whatever. And then we're bringing the guacamole after that.
Okay, so let me see if I can take some lessons from that, and correct me if I go astray. First off, you had an idea and you tested it in a lot of different areas.
Yes.
With a lot of different people, so you could triangulate the results. It wasn't just, let me ask my best friend what he or she thinks.
Right.
You went to people that didn't know you. You really vetted this product and this idea before you moved forward at all.
Yeah.
That's one.
Yeah.
Second, you looked at partnerships rather than doing it all yourself. Now, I know there's someone who's going to watch or listen to this and go, oh, I don't want a partner because they're just going to take all my money and it was my idea. And I don't get that. So can you talk to that issue real quick?
That's just silly. They'll never sell a thing. So you have to engage with vendor partners. So I have to find a manufacturer. I'm not going to build a manufacturing plant. It's ridiculous, right? And I can't build in the United States. It's economically infeasible. It's undoable. Right. You have to do it at the avocado fields in Mexico at least. And so we're manufacturing by the avocado fields in Mexico with Mexican labor. So now we can sell it at reasonable prices. We're still going to be the high price spread, but Bob, reasonable prices. So you have to engage, and you sign all the agreements, the NDAs and all that. And believe me, it's so hard to do that I challenge anybody, go do it. Go find how to make a national, high quality, best tasting brand in that space. Go do it. Right?
Well, that you bring up the whole idea, and you're a lawyer, so you might be able to speak to this. The number of people that want NDAs and confidentiality agreements and all that stuff. While I think there's a place for them, I always say to people, I'm coaching, and like, I need you to sign an NDA. I'm like, why? I don't want to do what you do. You have a huge head start. I mean, if someone right now can catch up to you in the avocado bread world, let them, right? I mean, it would only help you at this point, right? Because a marketplace would be a good thing.
Right. And the other thing is there are a couple of avocado breads out there right now that terrible. So all right. So that said, you're going to have to engage brokers to help sell your product. You're going to have to engage a distribution company. You're going to go create a trucking company. Go do it. I mean, but I never had to give up equity for any of that. The only equity that I'm giving up is to this bread manufacturer. And I love these people. I've known these people all my life.
Okay.
And they're giving us an entire footprint. So it's well worth it. It's well worth it. This is a way to truncate, jumpstart, whatever nomenclature you want to use. Oh, and by the way, I went to law school. I'm not a lawyer. So I guess I have law.
I'm sorry. I apologize.
It's okay. I just want to make sure everybody knows that.
Yes, I'm sorry. You're right. You said that. I apologize.
It's okay. I
know it's an important distinction for you.
Exactly. I have legal education. I went to law.
Okay. That's it. So, and then another lesson I think I take from that is you've got to always be thinking about capital. Capital is king in the game, right? So many people I talk to, what gets in the way is either their ego or lack of capital.
Right.
Would you say that you see that a lot?
Without question. So that's one of the things that we teach in our best practices, Bob, is have an open mind and an open heart to do the best you can for your people, your company, your vendors, your clients, and your professional service organizations. And leave your ego at the door. Bring in your confidence, not your arrogance.
how do you differentiate between confidence and arrogance?
Very
Where's
simple.
the line?
Confidence walks in self-love. Arrogance is in fear and self-loathing.
Wow. I feel like you should drop the microphone now and we should just go home. That's pretty good.
I just spiked the ball behind my head.
And you did indeed.
So
if
really,
only you didn't have to worry about the Browns playing.
Hey, yeah, God bless them. God bless them. The clownies. Anyhow, at the end of the day, when you see somebody that just captures the room, right? You know that they've done the work. But when you see somebody just beating their chest, and I mean, how many times I could name 50 people that have fallen on their face because it's all false. It's all bravado, right?
Okay.
And so, and I've been there, right, in my youth, and you get spanked around a little bit, or you get an arrow in the back, pull it out, stitch it up, and heal, and don't do it again. And so you do the work, and you really get in touch with who you are.
And that's what I was going to say, doing the work. That's another lesson I think I take from what you were describing, that you were intimately involved in all phases of this. It wasn't hire a focus group company and, let them give you a report 3 months from now and you don't know anything about it. You don't see the videotape. You don't know who they talked to. Right. You really stayed engaged at all phases, which is work, right?
A lot of work. It's a lot of work. I mean, while I sleep good, and at 67 years old, that's a relative term. Okay. I mean, I was up at 3:30 last night and I fell asleep at 4:30, but I slept from, 10:30 to 3:30. So I got 5 hours and then I got another couple hours after that,
We could have done this interview at 3:30. I was up.
I'd been wide awake. So, but at the end of the day, it's about when you put your head on the pillow that you've done your best, and there are going to be days you're going to miss. I mean, I had a guy today called me, he said, Coach, I'm doing this 75-day hard and I missed the last 2 days because I just had to travel. I just didn't have enough gas in the tank. I said, dude, forgive yourself.
Right.
It's okay. And in the forgiveness, that's your growth.
Okay.
There's the lesson. There's the nugget, so.
Okay.
Yeah.
So what's one of the best practices that you almost see universally not being followed by people, either because they don't know, they don't care, or they don't understand?
Really closed mind. Because of their ego, they're afraid. So I see it, particularly in the C-suite, particularly with CFOs. They're so arrogant because they've been, shielded by this insane tax structure and all these layers and pages and volumes of bullshit, okay, that they know that they have a stranglehold on a lot of companies out there. And anything that, impinges on their little suzerainty and their little fiefdom, oh my God, right? So we have a solution that literally can eliminate their entire AP department and make money out of paying their bills. So we can take a line item that is traditionally a cost center and turn it into a profit center. Drops right to the EBITDA. With no cost, no friction, no IT involvement. And sometimes we can't get to square one. Because they're so effed up. Their departments are so effed up. So, and I don't know what kind of podcast you have, but I do use the F word once in a while. Funds.
It's okay. I'll deal with it. That's my problem, not yours. It's all good.
No, I didn't use it. I used F. So,
thank you for that.
You got it.
I appreciate it more than you realize.
Cheers.
So, what's next for you?
So
besides getting your bread in every store in the U.S.
Yeah, we want to create a CPG company, a food company that's bringing the highest quality, best tasting, best quality, best package, best, all the bests, if we can, to the marketplace, so that somebody can go and get high quality product that's made with avocado.
Okay. All right. Well, that's easy enough. I mean, you're 69. You should be able to nail that by the time you're
Thank
70.
you. I'm 67, but God bless you.
67. I'm sorry.
Class
I apologize.
of 75, high school, born in 57, the best Chevy ever made. 57 Chevy.
Okay. There you That's good.
Exactly.
So take a few moments. I've steered the conversation. I'd like to give you a moment to talk about whatever you choose. You can promote yourself. You can promote your products. You can promote a charity. You can scream the Star Spangled Banner. I don't care. I'm going to let you do that. And then when you're finished, I'm going to try not to interrupt you. We'll do the Bob Graham experience. So I'm going to ask you 5 questions that I ask every guest, and I'm curious to see your answers. So Peter, the floor is yours. Take it away.
Thanks, Bob. So yeah, that's great. Yeah, I just think that if you're a leader, again, open heart, open mind, but more importantly, look for a better way. Okay, COVID showed us that how inept we were. Didn't matter what political party we were inept in how we handled that, and we had a historical, perspective that could have given us an entire platform that would have been much better. We would have much better outcomes, much better economics, physical, spiritual, psychological, whatever outcomes. So bring that lesson and bring it to the forefront for your businesses and look to the best practices that you can. And if you want my advice, reach out to us at palladium.com, palladiumedge.com, Peter at palladiumedge.com. And I'm all over LinkedIn as well as some other social medias. So we will bring that mentality and those solutions to you. So thank you for that self-promotion there, Bob.
How big of company are you working with? How small, how big? Give me some parameters.
Yeah, typically, 5 to 10 million and all the way up to $1 billion company. We do some of the biggest companies, on the planet. We have solutions into Fortune 1,000 companies.
Okay, but even the smaller companies.
Yeah, oh yeah, we do 5 to 10 million all the way. Typically our sweet spot is 25 million to about 5 billion. That's right there. So
okay.
Mid-market.
And is it typically services or product companies, or does it not matter?
It doesn't matter. We're agnostic. We're agnostic to the marketplace. Okay. It doesn't matter if it's a hospital, logistics company, car dealership, law firm, manufacturing firm, medical device company. Doesn't matter. CPG,
okay,
retail, doesn't matter. Businesses.
And how long an engagement is it typically with you?
Our best engagements are at least a year. We just finished an 18-month engagement with a lift truck dealership that we ended up getting them 50% more than they thought they were going to get. So but we engaged for 18 months, and we did a great job.
And are you typically working with them to get to a place where they can sell?
Depends. So it depends on how we're engaged. It could be organic growth. It could be acquisition growth. It could be line item efficiencies, all three. We can get them ready to be acquired. We can get them, we can find them capital source. We're not a broker, but we even, introduce them to capital sources.
Yep.
So at the end of the day, it depends on what that deep dive uncovers. So, we don't shoehorn stuff in. We don't put a round square in a peg hole. Square hole, whatever that nomenclature, that cliche is. We just don't force that. So it's all based on intellect. It's all based on emotion, and it's all based on marrying that vision, and then we get them there. So we are an engagement and an execution company. We execute for that.
Okay, great. Are you ready for the Bob Graham experience?
Let's go. Come on, BG.
All right.
Let's go.
Five questions. I ask every guest these same questions, and let me tell you that whatever you choose to answer is great. The more honest and authentic you are, the better it goes. Number 1, first question. What's the last thing that you read?
I'm reading it right now. The Prophet by Khalil Gibran, and it'll be my 10th time I've read it.
Awesome. I love it. I've read that several times. Mm-hmm. It's a good book. Your most important inspiration?
My Armenian mother, grandmother, grandfather. My father, too, my Italian father, but having an Armenian heritage and knowing the history and the devastation and the absolute heinous acts that were committed on the Armenians in the genocide is my inspiration. My grandmother I had the honor of interviewing her for my master's thesis about the genocide. And to her bravery, she was able to talk about it because she didn't talk about it much. And what they had to go through is truly stunning. We have nothing to complain about. Nothing.
No.
Nothing.
So, you're right. It's a difficult history, to say the least.
It is.
Okay, number 3, your biggest daily challenge, Peter.
Knowing that I'm going to deal with interesting intellects on times, because when you're pitching new business, yikes.
Okay.
There's a lot of mediocrity, and I'm being kind, out there, both intellectually, business acumen, and then the arrogance combined with it is just stunning. So it's a bad combination of being incompetent and arrogant. But
okay.
We see that a lot.
Peter, be honest. Don't hold back. You're holding back, I feel.
I know. I'm such a shy guy. I got to come out of my corner, right?
That's it. All right. Number 4 question. What is your guiding principle?
Always do good. No matter what.
All right, I'm going to ask a follow-up question to that one. I don't normally do this. Define good as you see it.
If your mother is looking over your shoulder, would you do that deal?
Okay.
You got.
So it's also listening to your intuition.
Yeah.
When that gut says, don't do it, don't do it.
And also your upbringing. Hopefully your mother's not an asshole. No disrespect.
Okay.
But it's the mother test. It's the mother, not the father test, the mother test. If mom approves,
there you go.
If mom approves, do it.
Okay. I like that. And then finally, the last question, what's a skill you didn't know you had that you rely on now?
Being able to really understand a P&L. I was a creative.
Okay. Profit loss statement.
Mm-hmm. I was a creative thinker that forced myself to get good at understanding the P&L in all line items.
Is it that difficult?
For a creative
thinker? Because I find that people make it more difficult than it needs to be.
For me, back in the day, yes, it was, and it was boring. Okay. It was boring.
Right.
Okay. So I saw, these accounting types, and then I understood the elegance of that and the value of it and the creativity that can be brought into it. And so I started to get a much more higher and honest respect for it. And
it's a really nice snapshot that many businesses don't take advantage of.
It becomes a living organism too.
Oh, talk more about that.
You can look at a P&L almost like a work of art. And if you look at it that way, and you could see the future, and you could see the projections, you could just see what all the stuff that's brought into what makes that P&L sing, that EBITDA sing. There's the creativity. There's the organism that occurs. So.
Okay. Wow. That's a great place for us to close. Peter, I appreciate your time. You had a great story. You spiced it up a lot. I learned a lot. I know our viewers and our listeners did. Thank you so much. Folks, this is the Bob Graham Experience. I'm Bob Graham. You see what we do. We have other episodes in our archive, and we'll have more coming up in the coming weeks and months. Hope you'll check another one out. See you real soon.
That was the Bob Graham Experience. Want to be a guest and experience it for yourself? Visit thebobgrahamexperience.com to get on the list. And of course, please rate us and listen to other episodes wherever you had the Bob Graham Experience. Until next time.